Welcome back to the Future Proof Leader podcast. I'm Charlsie Baldwin. I'm one of the co-founders of Twin Legacy Solutions, where we automate your pipeline, elevate your leaders, and future-proof your teams. Today, we're diving into what I find to be a fun series where we bring on various CEOs and we talk through their growth journeys, what's worked, maybe what's flopped, or what they're doubling down on next as they really kind of dive into 2026. So we have an exciting guest here today. We have Adrienne Lloyd. She's the CEO of Optimize Healthcare. Thank you so much for joining us today and for dedicating the time for this. I know our audience is going to love it. So, can you just kick us off and just tell us, what is your business? And then we'll kind of dive into your journey.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And always happy to share. My business is Optimize Healthcare. I do a variety, and I also have a couple other things that I'm doing in the aesthetic and med spa space. And then I do work generally with business owners too. Essentially, my core services, I do speaking and training, as well as just overall executive coaching and tends to be operational and strategic consulting, mostly in the healthcare space. I've spent the first, I guess, 22 years of my career I was at Mayo Clinic for 10 years and then at Duke Health for 7, worked with UNC with pediatrics for a few years before that. And then before kind of jumping in, I was in executive, like operational roles where I managed whole practice, hired staff, physicians, equipment, capital, opening new facilities, all of those types of things. And ultimately led really big teams and, kind of found myself burning myself out, burning our teams out, and just really wanted a new way to work. So I have created, as part of what I do, I have a whole leadership training and coaching program that I've been taking leaders and organizations through to really help them just reset how they think about leadership. And it's just making great progress. So that's kind of one of my favorite things I'm doing right now and working on my book. But so I did corporate healthcare for 20 years, started speaking at national meetings and so forth, just sharing the journey and the wins that the teams were having as we're working through initiatives. And then from that kind of coaching and consulting kind of evolved from there. And I was like, I want to figure out a way to really just help more people, leaders. Again, I say a lot of, whether it's healthcare, certain specialty in healthcare, or it's business, it's all people and process. And it's like how we work and how we shape how we work as leader really not only can allow us to feel the difference and like not breathing one day,
Right.
and feeling so stressed to feel like even if we're not able to get all the things done that we want because we never will, just like how we can shift our mindset and how we can shift how we're working with our teams. So I really wanted to create a system so I could help as many people as possible, but in a really deep and meaningful way, shift how they're working with their teams. And it impacts both the team and the rest of their life too. So it's been really great. But yeah. And then outside of work, I have 2 kids. My daughter is 13, almost 14, and then my son is 11. So
Okay. So you're in the teenage years.
yeah, mom life, entrepreneurial life.
Love it.
Yeah, but it's good.
I think our viewer that could be a whole segment on its own of how
Oh
you
yeah.
juggle being a CEO of a successful startup and being a parent. That's a whole separate topic we could spend hours talking about. Yeah, so as we kind of dive in, thanks for sharing that background. Okay, so for our listeners out there, a lot of our listeners are founders, solopreneurs. They're kind of newer in their journey, right? Can you kind of walk us through your growth journey as a CEO and maybe a key milestone or two that kind of really defined where your company is today?
Yeah, I think it's best described as a roller coaster. And then when you start out, at least mine, felt more like the roller coasters I would never get on knowingly, willingly, because they're
Right.
like the drops are so massive. The highs are amazing, but the drops can be so massive. So, and then I feel like over the last, so I've been full time in this business. I started in full time in January of 21. And so it's
Okay.
been right at 5 years. And I was doing consulting and speaking and training part time for probably 2 or 3 years before that, which I do think I get a lot of people come and ask me, like, I want to do what you do. And they're in corporate roles, usually pretty successful roles, and they're trying to figure out how to make the leap. And that's one of the things I'm always talking through them with them about is like, what does your pipeline look like? How are you going to kind of build your launch pad so that you're
Mhm.
not just jumping off
Mhm.
the abyss?
Right.
So that's something, that's a whole nother segment probably too. But and I do think there was a transition, at least for me, and I know others will relate to this too, where I didn't realize that the difference that I would feel leaving a big corporate environment to just being on my own. And I added team members. I had one team member kind of pretty quickly and then started adding, several more as time went on, grew to a team of about eight, probably in like 22, 23, and then ended up kind of shrinking back down for a variety of reasons, kind of shifted what I was doing. I started out doing more consulting. It was still operational consulting, but it was just kind of really project based, and there wasn't a lot of consistency there. I felt like it was I almost felt a little transactional, where I loved the challenge of like meeting the new teams and figuring out the problems and coming up with whatever solutions and helping them kind of solve that. But then it felt like I was kind of jumping or waiting on the next client, and knew I really wanted to kind of really shift what I was doing to the more strategic side, building like longer term partnerships with clients, and then focusing on what I'm doing with leadership and executive coaching and my program. So, but I mean, there were definitely pain points along the way. And I think one of the other things to think about if you're already in the business is, what does your referral network look like? Who can you partner with? Who can you really, call up and say, listen, I'm thinking about doing this program. Do you have any feedback even? Do you know someone who might be interested or might be a good fit for me just to talk to and get their feedback on? I think really like vetting that out was very critical to helping kind of smooth to where the roller coaster now feels. I still have some really great highs, but it feels like the dips are not as dramatic and scary.
Yep. Yeah. It is I do actually hear that phrase quite a bit, that it's a roller coaster. And I can definitely relate to that. And I think talking about the pipeline too is key, and the referral, and it's all who you know, who you're talking to. You have to make sure too what you're trying to sell, whether it's a service or a product, that there's actually someone who wants to buy that, right? Before you go all in and invest in developing a program or a product, pause and make sure.
And I always say, like, there's no real mistakes, I don't think. But one of the things, like when I first started full time, I had a good pipeline. I had, kind of a good cohort of projects that I was working on. So I was able to keep my kind of salary and revenue consistent from where I was in the corporate world, which
That's great.
but then it started, those kind of projects started to end, and I think it's hard to, something I'll have to think about as entrepreneurs, especially when we're first starting, is like being in delivery and sales mode at the
Yes.
same time. And you get so far down in the delivery mode that it's easy to forget that you also need to be in the sales and promotion mode. So, like, and I don't think I've still yet found that perfect balance, to be honest. So I ended up, in terms of like a really low point, I think just from so others, if they feel this, they know they're not alone, is
Yeah.
23. Like I got to a point where I'm like, I don't know if I can make this work. I really think I'm gonna potentially have to go back at 3 a.m. looking at job postings, jobs that you don't want, and knowing the salary will not be what you would want or would,
Right.
and you'd be frustrated before you even start the job.
Right.
But and then now I'm, at a point where I've doubled, kind of almost tripled what I was making in year one.
That's amazing.
Great. But it got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't know if I can do this. And that's where I kind of had to shrink and be like, what do I really want to focus on? What's the impact I really want to create? And how do I narrow down what I'm doing? So
and even the large, mammoth companies out there, right? They go through those too, where they grow too fast or it doesn't sustain, and then they have to downsize. So it's that roller coaster, I think, exists at all levels. And the fact you survived it is huge, right? Like a lot of people don't. And that's amazing that it kind of gives you hope, right? That when you're in the down part of it, hang on. There's a way to get back up.
I think it's important for when you're in that moment to pause, and it feels scary as crap to pause in that moment because it feels like you just need to create action. Honestly, an inflection point to be able to, when you're in that place of I need the clients, I need the money to come in, you're most likely going to attract ones that aren't the best fit for what you really want to be doing and where your genius is. And so then it's just going to feel even heavier and harder to get through to the other side. So I think it really is important to not pause for like months on end. You can't afford that, but whether it's, just really taking some time to think about what do you love to do, which projects or clients or services have you really, really felt like you made an impact, you enjoyed doing, they were easier for you to deliver on, and then how could you get more of that? So it's kind of that shedding.
Which is hard to do because we all want to sprint.
I know. And it's scary to be like, well, if I say no to this, will anything else come in? It's hard to trust that.
Right. Definitely. So as you look ahead into this year and where your business is today, what are some of those areas that you're kind of doubling down on? You mentioned you've talked about pipeline quite a bit. Is
Yeah.
it that and making sure you always have a consistent pipeline? Is it more on delivering? And where do you see most of your focus needing to be this year?
It's so easy to get stuck in delivery mode. And
Hmm.
I love the clients I have right now. So you want to give more to them where I know I have to focus getting my book done, which is Stop Leading Alone, Build Teams That Lead With You, which aligns with my leadership program and just helping so much as leaders, we feel like we have to carry the weight of the organization on our shoulders,
Hmm.
particularly if you're parents, or even if you're not parents, if you have other things in your life, it's hard to, you don't go to dinner with your friends and just like unload all the time about all the work that you have and how stressed you are. And so how do you really shift how you're working and building that team that leads with you? And they're involved and they're engaged, which reduces turnover and all those things too. So I need to focus on that. And then my leadership coaching program, which is called Day Zero Blueprint. So it's around like creating your day zero with
Hmm.
the team and truly resetting. This is what's working. This is what's not working. Here's why it's
Hmm.
important that we move towards, this different vision over the course of the next 6 months, year. And what do we need to do that? And so then from there, really focusing on how do you have those difficult conversations? How do you create accountability and expectations with your team? Like where do you specialize? Where do you, generalize responsibilities? And how to use then I have a Lean Six Sigma background too with process improvement. So how can
Hmm.
you use those tools to like hardwire the results that you want? So just thinking about that, and those things can apply in different ways depending on your business and where you are, but really helping leaders and also too, I think it's just so easy to feel alone in leadership because again, you don't want to take it home and you don't want to unload on your friends or your family, and you don't want to feel like you want to if you have a boss, to go to your boss with all the problems.
No.
You don't want to go to your team with all the problems.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things when I meet with that's one of the things when I meet with leaders or I speak with leaders, it's just, I share a story of something I went through and they're like, oh my gosh, you too. And you see the
They can
heads
relate.
nod and they're like, we
Right.
can share stories with each other. And that's one of the pieces with the program.
Good.
have online content, and then I also have group coaching calls. And part of it's me to be there to help guide them. And part of it, most of it is so they can, help guide and support each other and really build
Hmm.
a community and connection. So I think that's important too, as you kind of switching back to the entrepreneurial journey side, is building a community and network. And
I
I spent a
completely
lot of
agree.
money. I spent a lot of money on courses and masterminds and programs.
Hmm.
As I was saying before, I don't think any of those were mistakes. Some of them I completed all the way through. Some of them I took a bit of, but I think a lot of it was in that, like, I was searching for like, what's the one solution or what's the one like pathway that's going to get me there. And I don't know that there is one. Um,
Yeah.
but I think you need to have people around you who are trying to elevate and who can support you. So whether that's a coach or business network or, some other kind of community, I think it's so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. I think some of my best investments are related to having that mentor, that coach
Yeah.
that you can outside of your leadership chain of command, right? You
Right.
need to be able to talk through these things because you really can't do that at work a lot of times. Not, I mean, you can, but you're putting yourself at risk sometimes by doing that. So, um, everything that you've talked, you mentioned Lean Six Sigma, a couple systems and tools. How do you see AI playing into all this? What's the
I
big,
mean, I love AI. I'm definitely
yeah.
down I think there's so many different components or opportunities for AI. So like all AI is not AI. It's all different. I mean, Chat GPT, Claude, you know, we're best friends. I use them for a variety of purposes. I use them on calls with coaching clients as, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. I have a couple physician practices that I work with that, I used to feel like I needed to hide, that I was using this as a tool. And now I'm like, yep, here it is. Like, let's do it. And we can get
Yeah.
it. We can just move faster. So I think that's where they really can help supplement you as like an individual business owner or a leader in your teams. I mean, I encourage all my teams to, like, please run this through chat.
Hmm. Right.
Use it as it can't be the final output
Right.
most of the time. Like you need to use both your knowledge and specific, like you have to train it to give you the output that you want, and then you still need to review the output and refine it. But it's so helpful. And then I think from a broader perspective, I am working on the aesthetic med spa side with a couple business partners. We've created a conversational AI solution that can help. And she sounds human. Her name is Rachel. Hire
Okay.
Rachel. It's not AI, but she can answer the phones for these med spa owners, plastic
Nice.
surgery offices, dermatology offices, help them, capture those calls, whether they're coming in at, 8 p.m. at night, Saturdays, or during the
Mm-hmm.
regular day when their teams can't get to them. Book calls, confirm appointments, talk to them about services, even do outbound contacting for lead generation, like, hey, we're having a promo, or those kinds of things, both calling and SMS. And then on the healthcare side, I'm working with other companies that I don't have official interest in. I'm helping my clients go through the process of saying, like, let's look at your process. Let's
Mm-hmm.
identify where you can put either AI, or sometimes it's maybe just different types of staffing and team members. So hiring, outsourcing, perhaps I have some great team members in the Philippines,
Yep.
other countries that are really great in a medical practice, maybe to help like do a pre-check visit workup list before a customer comes in and go through the chart and pull the information together so it's ready for the provider. Because not only is it often less expensive, it's also more consistent
Mm-hmm.
staffing than a lot of practices or businesses are able to keep, especially those
Right.
line team members. There's just so much turnover. So thinking through alternative staffing models, but I'm helping a lot of the healthcare practices vet conversational AI. There's AI coming in to help with revenue cycle, whether it's posting payments, reviewing payments,
Mm-hmm.
flagging, like this doesn't make sense. And then I'm also working on building a software solution that actually looks at team member productivity, not just on a total volume, but like how much time does it truly take to see this type of patient versus that type of patient, so that you can look at, and you also can project staffing needs. So
Mm-hmm.
then we'll pull some more AI kind of expertise into that to help really predict trends, like help you project
Love it.
revenue. And so there's all that kind of stuff and a million more. Robotics is coming into the healthcare space. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure how I feel about all of it. I mean, the fact of the matter is like we need more access in healthcare and in many business service
Yeah.
areas. And there's just a lot of transactional opportunity. If we think about it as a way that it can really supplement what the
Mm-hmm.
tasks that are repetitive and don't need a human to do, I think that's
Right.
fantastic. So
And we
that
can repurpose those people.
our
Right.
humans can focus on the customer,
Yep.
interaction. I think that's great. And the other thing is, a lot of AIs, like you can train them to work within parameters.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them will go, make their own decisions. And so you get to decide. You get to decide if you have one that's going to think for itself and come up with
Right.
solutions, or if you have one that you're like, nope, I want you to do only what I tell you to do.
Right.
So,
I love it. Obviously, we're an AI company, so we're
yeah.
all about it. I love hearing about it in the med industry as well. I think that's super interesting. And like you said, I think it can really be used to enhance people. And you talked a lot about retention, and a lot of our clients, that's a huge problem is retention, right? And that's one solution to help retain talent is to train them and show them that you're implementing AI because they want it. They want to make sure that they stay relevant as well. So by bringing in, experts like yourself to help with leadership and show them some AI tools, it's just going to help with your retention and enhance your folks.
Yeah, and I think it's so important with the teams, because I think sometimes whether it's AI or other technology or just initiatives, like they're kind of pushed on top of teams, versus I think it's important to take that, again, that pause, and where in our process do we have bottlenecks? Where do we have gaps in customer service or outcomes? Where could a technology supplement? Then go and pull 3 to 5 plus companies who are saying they can help with that, go
Mhm.
through a process and see what they can do, and then design the workflows based on what they have to offer and what works with your system in a way that it helps. Because part of it too is AI is scary to a lot of people, and so being like the change management communication is really important as they think about even starting an initiative, and as they kind of implement the initiative. So thinking about where can you get quick wins, where can
Right.
you get buy-ins, maybe use it in like a low, like for example, in the medical practices, I see a lot of companies want to start directly with scheduling. I think that's a risky place to start because it's, if you get it wrong,
Complex. Yeah.
if you get it wrong, you're going to hear it from your provider team,
Right.
and they may never forget it. So then you're
Right.
kind of continuously have versus starting with other, like we're starting with one group where we're doing prescription refills and medical records, like things that were going to voicemails that people are having to
Yeah.
retrieve and transcribe. So just thinking through like, okay, where can we get some wins, even if it's not the highest volume, it
Yes.
will have an
100%.
impact, and then it'll just help you roll it forward after that. So,
And that applies to all industries.
yeah.
Start with the easy wins, get used to it, trial and error. There's so many different platforms and they're evolving rapidly. And it's cool with a lot of these platforms. It's not like a giant ERP system you're having to invest hundreds of thousands, if not millions into. It's trial and error, fire
Yeah.
and forget, right? Well, I know we're coming up on time here, Adrienne. I really appreciate you taking the time to dive into this, and I really enjoyed talking about the AI side as well and your leadership coaching. And I look forward to seeing your book out. Do you have a timeline when that's coming out?
It's like the content's there. I just need to edit, which feels like
Okay.
the hardest part, honestly. It feels like, and I actually did the content a couple years ago, and then I was going through divorce
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. So just, I think it was good that it kind of sat, and now so I'm hoping, hopefully this summer, hopefully we'll get it
Okay.
this summer.
Well, I definitely will keep an eye out for that. As we wrap up for our viewers, if they want to reach out to you to talk more about this, how can they contact you?
Probably the easiest place is on LinkedIn. So it's Adrienne P. Lloyd. If you look up linkedin.com and then Adrienne P. Lloyd.
Well, thank you again for your time, and I wish you the best of luck as you move forward into 2026.
Sounds good. Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.